Continuing with the philosophy of the second chapter of the Gita. Yesterday we saw how Shri Krishna started explaining to Arjun basic knowledge that our true identity is the soul, not the body. This is our fundamental confusion, and it's the first thing someone needs to learn on the spiritual path. Connected with this is the understanding that your true happiness is in God, not in the world, because you are not the body. If you are the body, then your happiness is in the world, because the world is Mayic and your body is Mayic. But since you're the soul, your true happiness must be divine, because your true self is divine. So true happiness is only in God, not in the world. This world is always full of combinations of opposites, and those opposites always keep oscillating. For instance, it's now night, but it's not going to stay night forever. Eventually the opposite thing will come. Day will come. The day will not last forever either. Eventually the night will come. Winter is now over. Summer is beginning. But summer is not going to last forever. Eventually winter will come again. But winter won't last forever. After that, summer will come again. The stock market may go up one day, but no investor thinks the stock market is going to keep going up forever. They know it's going to come back down. And when it comes back down, they also know that it's not going to go down forever. Eventually, it's going to come back up. If you're having a good day, you can be sure that something bad is going to happen. And if you're having a bad day, you can be sure that something good is going to happen. Eventually. Nobody has only good things happen to them all the time, and nobody has only bad things happen to them all the time. So you can console yourself with this. You know, no matter how bad it is, eventually something good is going to happen. And you also know that no matter how good it is right now, you have to be prepared, because something bad is definitely going to happen eventually. This is the world. So it's not perfect. We can never expect it to be perfect. Perfection is only in God. This is called Sankhya philosophy. So after explaining all of this, Shri Krishna says to Arjun that I have now explained Sankhya to you, which means being able to distinguish between the real and the unreal, between that which is divine and that which is only temporary and material. Being able to distinguish between your true self, the soul, and your temporary possession, this body. And being able to distinguish between true happiness, which is only in God, and temporary pleasures, which we get from this world. He explained all of that to Arjun, and then he said, now I'm going to give you a different explanation. Of course, all of this explanation is to convince Arjun that he has to fight the war. The Sankhya explanation was to make him understand that although he fears the death of his loved ones, nobody can actually die. Only their body can die, and their body was born to die. So why grieve for something which is inevitable? And on the other hand, the soul can never die. So what are we going to grieve for? When someone dies, what are we grieving for, really? Are we grieving for their soul? Well, the soul didn't die. It's gone on. Are we grieving for the body? Well, the body is what it always was. The body was never, in fact, alive. It appeared to be alive because the soul was there. Once the soul left, then you see the body for what it is. A collection of material elements. It has no life in it. So why grieve for that? Prakat so tanu tav so vat Ram says to the wife of Bali, after he killed Bali and Tara was crying, he says to her that, Kehi lagi tumarova. Why are you crying? Are you crying for Bali? Well, I didn't kill him. He's a divine soul, so he's still alive. Or are you crying for his body? Because the body is still there before you. You want his body? Have it. So what are you crying for? This is Sankhya philosophy, understanding the eternity and divinity of the soul as opposed to the temporary nature of the body and the material world. So Arjun, don't use your fear that these people may die as an excuse not to do the right thing. Then he goes on to talk about karma, what is right and what is wrong. Why is it the right thing for Arjun to fight the war? Some people, upon hearing the Gita, they become surprised that Krishna is God and he is advocating war. Arjuna is trying to not fight the war and Shri Krishna is convincing him to fight a war where literally millions of people are going to die. How is that the right thing? Well, it's very simple if you put it in the context of our modern society. What is Arjun's role? His role is to uphold Dharma. He was Kshatriya, and the role of a Kshatriya is to protect those who are following Dharma and stop those who are living against Dharma, prevent them from breaking laws, prevent them from hurting others. So in that way, you can say Arjun is like a police officer. That's what police officers do nowadays. They uphold the laws of the society, they enforce it, and when they see someone breaking the law, first they warn him verbally, and then if necessary, they use force to make him stop. Duryodhan was doing adharma. He was breaking the laws of dharma, breaking the laws of the society. Thus, it was Arjun's duty to stop him. They had exhausted all of the other possibilities. They tried talking sense into him. They tried negotiating. They tried to get a treaty in place. They tried threatening him. They tried everything, and nothing worked. So what's left but the use of force? If a police officer sees someone breaking into someone else's house and he says, "Stop, police," and the person doesn't stop, then what if the police officer just says, "Oh, okay"? No, everyone would expect that if the criminal doesn't stop when he's verbally warned, then the police says, "Stop or I'll shoot." And then if he still doesn't listen, guess what? He'll shoot. This is required and expected of the police. If he doesn't do that, the police officer may be thrown in jail for not doing his job. He'll be punished. Why didn't you stop him? Why did I give you his superintendent or his boss will say, "Why did we give you that gun if you're not going to use it to stop a criminal from perpetrating a crime?" In the same way, Arjun was faced with this situation where the use of force was the only way to remove Duryodhan from power and make him stop doing what he was doing. Added to this was the fact that on Duryodhan's side were many supporters that Arjun loved. Not to mention the fact that Duryodhan himself is Arjun's cousin, first cousin. Put this in modern context. Let's say the police officer sees someone breaking into a house. He says, "Stop." Person doesn't stop. He comes closer and he sees it's his own son or his own brother breaking into the house. Then is he supposed to say, "Oh, okay"? Which is basically what Arjun was about to do. "Oh, I'm related to these people? Okay. I'm not going to fight against them." They're on the wrong side. That's not your fault, Arjun. Bhishma Pitama, it's fine. He took a vow to protect the crown of Hastinapur. He chose to uphold his vow despite the fact that it meant supporting someone like Duryodhan, and despite the fact it meant being on the opposite side of Shri Krishna. So that's his decision. That doesn't change Arjun's duty. Whoever is going to support Duryodhan, they're going to have to face the consequences, relative or otherwise. The police officer could get in a lot of trouble if he allows someone to go, oh no, it was my own son, so I just let him go ahead. No, he's expected to enforce the laws equally. No matter who is breaking the law, he has to do his duty. Thus, Shri Krishna explains to Arjun that not only are you going to embarrass yourself and get a bad name for running away from this battle, but you'll be punished in your next life. Then he explained the law of karma, that if you do good actions, meaning you follow the Dharma, then you'll be rewarded in the future. And if you don't follow your dharma, you will be punished. This is the law of karma. If you do actions which are in accordance with dharma, that's called good karma. And you get a reward in your next life. Some kind of prosperity. If you don't do those karma which are in alignment with dharma, that is called bad karma or vikarma. And you'll be punished in your next life. There will be some kind of hardship or suffering that you'll have to endure as a consequence of that. Explaining this, he was trying to convince Arjun that, you see, if you don't fight this war, you're actually doing a bad action. You think you're doing something good because you're saying, then I won't kill anybody. You're actually doing something bad because you're walking away from your duty. Your duty in this case happens to be fighting the war, but anytime you walk away from your duty, that's a bad action, and you're liable to be punished. And in this case, fighting the war is a good action for you because it is your duty. Hato va prapsyasi swargam jitva va bhokshyase mahim tasmaduttishta kaunteya yuddhaya krita nishchayah. Arjun, if you choose to fight the war, you'll be choosing to perform your duty, and then no matter whether you win or you lose, you win. Either way, you win. Meaning, if while performing your duty, you're killed in this war, you'll be rewarded in your next life. He said, most likely you'll go to Swarg. I'll explain what is Swarg in a minute. And if you don't perform your duty, you'll be punished, or you may go to Narak. If you fight the war, performing your duty, and you aren't killed and you win the war, then you'll become the ruler, and you'll get to enjoy all of the things that come with that. He's explained the whole material field. What happens when you do good actions? What happens when you do bad actions? Good actions result in reward in the future lifetimes. Bad actions result in some kind of suffering, which you can say is a punishment. If someone does a lot of good actions, they could go to Swarg, and if someone does a lot of bad actions, they could go to Narak. Punyena punyalokam nayati papena papamubhabhyameva manushya-lokam. Mundakopanishad also says, if you do punya, you do a lot of good actions, you go to Swarg. If you do a lot of bad actions, you go to Narak. And if you do a mixture of the two, you're immediately reborn here. Shri Krishna is giving Arjun some incentive. But it's the type of incentive which is only useful on an ajnani. This is the type of incentive which will motivate someone who believes himself to be the body. If someone has understood that he is the soul, this incentive will not motivate him at all. Why? Imagine Shri Krishna is telling Arjun, if you fight the war and win, you'll become king and you'll enjoy the pleasures of this world. Arjun is thinking, I already told him, Nakankshe vijayam Krishna, nacharajyam sukhani cha. I have no desire for the pleasures of kingship. I've already experienced that. I know there's no true happiness in that. You yourself have just explained to me the fleeting and limited nature of worldly pleasures, and now you're dangling that in front of me as if it's some kind of incentive to do my duty. And in addition to that, you're saying that I may get to go to Swarg. However, listen to what Shri Krishna says about Swarg right here in this same second chapter. Yamimam pushpitam vacham pravadantya vipaschitah vedavadarata partha. He says, Parth, O Arjun, those who dream of going to Swarg and perform a lot of good actions with so much effort in order to attain Swarg, they are foolish. Nanyadasti tivarjuna. Nanyadasti tivadinaha. Those vadinaha, those talkers who tell that going to Swarg is such a great thing, you should strive to go to Swarg. They are fools, and those who listen to their talks and follow what they say, they are even more foolish. Why? Ved tells us, Ishtapurtam manyamana varishtham nanyachreyo vedayante pramudha nakasya prishtete sukrite nubhutve mam lokam hinataram vavishanti. Ved says, those who go to Swarg are pramudha. It means to be extremely foolish. So it means Shri Krishna is trying to make a fool of Arjun by telling him, do your duty and you'll get to go to Swarg. Why is it so foolish to go to Swarg? Because it takes so much effort to accumulate enough good actions in one lifetime to earn a trip to Swarg. And once you get there, it's only temporary. You stay there for some time and then you come back here, right back where you started. You won't come back in the same body looking like you do now. In fact, hinataram vavishanti, you may be born in lower species before you again get a chance to be born as human. All living beings have a soul. And there are three areas in which we can be born in this material world, meaning Maya produces three different areas. Where we are right now is called Mrityu Lok. In Mrityu Lok, if you're born here on this earth, you could be born as a human, you could be born as an animal, a bird, a plant, a tree, an insect, a fish, a worm, some kind of microorganism, a bacterium. These are all living beings, and since they're living beings, it means that souls inhabit those life forms. Nothing can be alive unless there's a soul there. We have been born in all of those life forms in the past, not once or twice, but uncountable times in every life form, because we've lived uncountable lifetimes. We've existed since eternity. So we've been born in every life form unlimited times. And we could be born in those life forms again. If we don't attain God in this life, there's no telling where we'll go. Iha che davedi datha satyamasti na che diha vedin mahati vinashti. Kena Upanishad says, if you don't attain God in this life, it's a major disaster for you. Iha che dashakad bodhum prak sharirasya visrasah tatah sargeshu lokeshu sharirattvaya kalpate. Kathopanishad elaborates upon why it is a disaster. Because if your body expires before you have attained God, there's no telling what species you could be born in your next life, or how many lifetimes it will be until you get another human birth. Sargeshu. A sarg is more than 4 billion years. Sargeshu means for many sarg. You could be born in lower species for many sarg, meaning for billions and billions of years. So many different lifetimes we would have to live before again, kabahu kari karuna nar dehi deta ish binu hetu sanehi. God graces us with a human birth. Because there's nothing you can do in any of those lower species to earn a human birth, because nothing you do counts as karma. In those lower species, our brain is not developed enough to be able to discriminate between right and wrong, so how can we be held accountable for our karma? We can't be when we're in those lower species. So souls born in the lower species do not accumulate good or bad karma. They merely undergo the consequences of actions they performed in previous human births. Because they're also having good and bad things happen to them. They have a destiny just like we do. So they have to undergo that destiny, yet they can't add anything more to their stock of karma, either good or bad. Then how could they earn a human birth if they can't even perform any good actions? They can't earn one. God just gives us another chance eventually. And that chance is a golden opportunity. Bade bhagya manush tanu pava sura durlabh sadgranthani gava. The chance to be born as human is so great that the human birth has been praised by the residents of Swarg. I told you there are 3 areas in which you can be born, and they're all material, produced by Maya. This is one. Swarg is, you can say, above here. Not literally above, but it's on a higher plane. Although it's produced by Maya, but it's a more refined form of the Mayic energy. Thus, it's a more refined matter over there. You can't see Swarg. You can call it in English heaven or the celestial abodes. You can't see Swarg with these eyes, because these eyes are made of this matter, which can perceive the objects of Mrityulok. If you did enough good actions to earn a birth in Swarg, you would receive that kind of physical body, which would allow you to perceive Swarg. And you would perceive all the pleasures of Swarg. You'd get to enjoy over there much more than you enjoy here. There's no hunger or thirst or illness or physical pain or old age. None of that exists over there. However, you go over there with the same mind that you have here. In every birth, you keep the same mind. So far, I've told you that The soul leaves the body and goes and takes another body, but it doesn't go alone. It goes with the mind. Soul and mind go together. Even though the mind is also material, but the same mind stays with that soul forever. Until you get God realized, then the material quality of the mind is eliminated and you get a divine mind instead. Since you go to Swarg with your same mind, it means you have the same nature, the same faults, the same mental problems. You may not have any physical problems over there in Swarg, but you have the same mind. It is said that in Swarg, everybody enjoys according to the amount of good actions that they performed while they were here. Meaning that someone who performed more good actions will have more enjoyment. So you may have your palace that you reside in when you go to Swarg. But what if your neighbor did more good actions than you did? Then your neighbor has a bigger palace with more servants, more enjoyments, higher level enjoyments. And just like we do here, we envy the one who has more than us. Over there as well, we also envy. We feel happy about what we have until we see the one who has more, and then that kind of finishes that feeling that we had. Oh, that person has more than I have. You're happy with your new car, but then when you see someone driving a better car, it pinches you and you feel like, oh, maybe one day I'll be able to get that car. You're happy with your new house, but when you see your neighbor has a bigger house, something inside you says, maybe one day I'll get to have that. Which shows that you're not satisfied. No matter how much you have, you're never satisfied. The same problem exists in Swarg. Indro vanchati brahma padam. There's one great personality over in Swarg. His name is Indra. He is the king of the Devtas. In Swarg, there is such a thing as the general public, and then there are those in positions of power. We call them Devtas, or celestial gods. It's God with a small g. They're not divine God. In fact, they're not God at all. We just use that word in English because there's no other word that we can use. But they're not really God. They're just in positions of great material power. So Indra is the king of those Devtas. There are other Devtas like the god of fire, god of wind, god of the ocean, etc., etc. These are like personified Mayic powers. But they're all Mayic, just like us. In fact, we could attain those positions if we did an even greater amount of good actions. We could, in fact, become Indra if we wanted to, if we did that many good actions. You have to do 100 Ashwamedh Yagyas. Then you would get to become Indra. It's very difficult and in fact impossible in Kali Yuga, but in other yugas like Satyuga, it would be possible to do that. However, even Indra sees that Brahma, who is above him in the hierarchy of celestial gods, he sees Brahma's status and power and the opulence of Brahma's abode, and he's jealous. Indro vanchati Brahma padam. He is jealous of Brahma and desires to attain the seat of Brahma. He desires to get what Brahma has. So when that is the state of Indra's mind, what to say of the general public? One time, Shri Krishna came to Indra in Swarg. He went to him and he said, ask for a boon. You would think that Indra, the king of Swarg, he would have enough intelligence to know what to ask for from God, right? That's not the case. You know what he asked for? He could have asked for anything. It's God. He could have given him anything. He said, give me such a beautiful woman as my companion who has never been seen in the world. There's never been such a beautiful woman in all of existence. That's what I want. That's what he used his boon for. So God, using his divine power, made millions of beautiful women appear in front of Indra. Indra looked at the very first one he saw and said, I want her. Shri Krishna said, at least look at them all and choose. He said, no, she's so beautiful. I want her. He said, okay. Later that day, he went and visited his Guruji. Brihaspati is the guru of the Devtas, and he brought Urvashi with him. Urvashi was the name of that celestial maiden. So Guruji said, who is she? I've never seen her before. So Indra says, oh yes, Guruji, God came to me earlier today. He told me to ask for anything I want, so I asked for her. Guruji does one of these. Oh God, is that what all you've learned from me? I'm ashamed to call myself your guru. God comes to you and you can only think of asking for more material pleasures. You know how many times you've been Indra? Every soul has been Indra uncountable times and enjoyed all of these pleasures an infinite number of times. And even now your hunger for that enjoyment has not been satisfied, yet you're asking for still more of the same. What is the sense in that? You could have asked for something divine. God could give you divine happiness. So you see, Indra still has desires, jealousy, anger, because when you go to Swarg, you have the same mind, and in your mind you carry all of those faults with you all of the time. This is why it's foolish to go to Swarg, because even while you're there, you're enjoying great pleasures. But those pleasures are of the same nature as the pleasures of this world. They're material pleasures. Just like the material pleasures of this world fail to satisfy you, the pleasures of Swarg also fail to satisfy you. And in the end, you have to leave Swarg anyway. You know, when you go on vacation, you enjoy the vacation, but part of you is always dreading the end of the vacation. That this is going to end and I'm going to have to go back to work. That's bothering you even while you're enjoying the vacation. Similarly, in Swarg, even while you're enjoying, you're dreading the end. That, oh, this is going to end and I'm going to have to go back and be born. In lower species, I'm not even guaranteed a human birth right away. I could be born as a dog, a cat, a grasshopper, a worm. And who knows how long it will be until I get another human birth? And to top it all off, while you're in Swarg, you can't perform any more karma, just like when you're born in a lower species. Those who are in Swarg don't have the right to perform karma. So they can't add or subtract to their karma, and they can't attain God either. Which is why it is said, Gayanti deva kila gitakani dhanyastu ye bharat bhumi bhage. That even those devtas, the residents of Swarg, they actually desire to be born as a human being on this earth planet, despite the fact that they're enjoying much more than we get to enjoy here. Yet they know the hollowness of their enjoyment. They know that it's not satisfying their soul, and the only way they can get soul satisfaction is by being born as a human being, which is your only chance to attain God. Then when you attain God, you get soul-satisfying happiness. And yet, Shri Krishna is trying to motivate Arjun to fight the war by saying, if you fight the war, maybe you'll get to go to Swarg. So you have both the carrot and the stick, they say in Western culture, right? You want to motivate someone, you can offer the carrot or you can use the stick. The carrot meaning like you want to get a donkey to walk forward, you use a carrot and get him to chase after the carrot. Or you use the stick and you smack him with it, and then because of that he walks forward. So either out of a desire to attain something good, we're motivated to do something, or out of a fear of what may happen if we don't do that, we may also be motivated to do something. So Shri Krishna also uses the stick. If you don't do your duty, it's a bad action, you'll be punished in your next life, or you'll go to Narak. Now, Narak is similar to Swarg in that it's its opposite. Whereas Swarg is like the best vacation, Narak is like getting a jail sentence. It's also a material place, and you get a special body to stay in Narak. And while you're there, it's like being in jail. You suffer, and you get the results of your bad actions. But once those consequences have been undergone, you're released from Narak, and you come back and get born here. Just like Swarg is a temporary place, no one goes to Swarg forever, Narak is also temporary. Nobody goes to Narak forever. And just like we've all been to Swarg uncountable times, we've all been to Narak uncountable times. We can't remember either. We can't remember any of our past lives because it's buried in our subconscious and unconscious mind, which we can't access with our conscious mind. Although the memories are there, but we can't access the specific memories. Both Swarg and Narak also get destroyed along with the earth during Pralay. I explained about the cycles of Srishti and Pralay that we have in this world. So during Pralay, not only our physical world here is destroyed, but Swarg is also destroyed and Narak is also destroyed. Now you understand that Swarg, Mrityulok, and Narak are three different places within material existence. They're all produced by Maya, and they're under Maya. And this is the area where we've been caught forever. For all eternity, we've been under Maya, taking birth after birth and going between Mrityulok, Swarg, and Narak. And Shri Krishna is using this again to try to motivate Arjun that do good and you'll get to go to Swarg, you'll get this reward. Do bad and you'll be punished, you'll have to go to Narak. So it's better to do good. So fight the war, Arjun. Get up and fight. Arjun is still sitting. He's not getting up. So then Shri Krishna had to explain the next step. Arjun wasn't interested in worldly pleasures. He wasn't interested in even the temporary pleasures of Swarg. To him, all three areas are like jail. Narak is like a jail with iron bars. Swarg is like a jail with golden bars. And this is also jail. Why? Because in all three instances, you're under Maya, you're caught in the cycle of birth and death. You're bound by karma. So you're in jail. Or you can say, to use yesterday's analogy, you're still in the mental hospital for those who have forgotten who they are. All of these three places are for people who have forgotten who they are. For us, ajnanis. We believe ourselves to be the body. Thus, we believe that material pleasures will give us our ultimate happiness. Thus, we think, oh, if the pleasures of this world are so enjoyable, imagine what it must be like in Swarg. Let me do more good actions so I can go to Swarg and enjoy a lot. That incentive is there to motivate someone who believes himself to be the body, so at least he'll do good actions instead of bad actions. But he's still not going to find perfect happiness by doing that. And Arjun knew that now. So he said, this is not a good enough reason for me to get up and fight this war. Tell me something more. Then Shri Krishna explained about Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga means performing the good action without performing the good action. Or you can say, performing the good action in such a way that doesn't bind you. Because even a good action is binding, right? If it results in your going to Swarg and then being reborn again eventually on this earth, you're still bound. So good actions also bind you, just like bad actions do. But Karma Yoga releases you from the bondage of actions. What is Karma Yoga? Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalaheturbhur ma te sangostva karmani. Shri Krishna explains that if you can perform the good action without being attached to the outcome of that, meaning don't be attached to or don't have the desire that by fighting this war I may become king, then I'll enjoy the kingship. Or by fighting this war I'll be doing my dharma, I may be rewarded by going to Swarg. If you're attached to that outcome, if you have the desire for that personal enjoyment that you may get by performing the action, then that action is going to bind you. In fact, it's your attachment that binds you. Shri Krishna says, remove the attachment, but do the good action anyway. That's Karma Yoga. Then you won't be bound by that action. You'll go beyond good and bad actions. Bad actions, people understand, have to be transcended. Instead of doing bad, do good. But the philosophy of the Gita teaches us you also have to transcend good actions. You have to transcend both good and bad actions. Only then you could attain a state of perfection. You could attain God and enjoy divine bliss forever. But in order to do that, you have to give up material desires, right? How else would you be able to perform an action without being attached to what enjoyment you're going to get by performing that action? In other words, you could say you have to make the decision in your mind that happiness is in God, not in the world. If you have firm faith that happiness is in the world, how will you stop desiring to get worldly things? You can never stop desiring it. But the only reason that we desire worldly things is because we believe there's happiness in them. Is that the truth, though? No, it's not the truth. Your own experience tells you it's not the truth. Can that happiness truly be called happiness, which ends one day? Which can be overcome by sorrow one day, as all happinesses that we've ever experienced are? Every happiness we've ever had one day came to an end. It was overcome by sorrow or stress or pain. Can that really be called happiness, which can be overcome by sorrow? Can that really be called happiness, which even during the time of enjoyment leaves you feeling dissatisfied? Ask yourself the next time you're enjoying something, am I really happy right now? You're excited, yes. The nerves in your brain are getting stimulated by the sensual input. Whatever it is you're enjoying, your favorite food, your favorite movie, your favorite TV show, your favorite person. It's stimulating the pleasure centers in your brain, giving you like an excitement. But ask yourself during the experience of that, am I really happy? You may say, what do you mean? Okay, ask yourself this. Am I fully satisfied? During the peak of enjoyment, ask yourself the question, do I want more than this? The answer will be yes. And if the answer is yes, it means you're not satisfied. And if you're not satisfied, it means you're not really happy. So even during the best enjoyments, we're not really happy. We're still looking for more. Can that really be called happiness? Your own experience is telling you that true happiness does not exist in this world. Yet, we keep looking to the world for happiness. We don't give up. Why don't we give up? Because it's our nature. Why is it our nature to look for happiness? And why do we keep looking for happiness in this world? I'll explain to you tomorrow. You can come back tomorrow and hear more philosophy of the second chapter of the Gita. We'll also move on to the philosophy of the third chapter. Boliye Vrindavan Bihari Lal Ki. So we'll finish with a few minutes of chanting now. We have to engage our mind in thinking of God. We'll talk more about this point this week. To transfer the desire of the mind from the world to God, you have to think about God. You have to think that God is happiness. And you could attain God. Shri Krishna could come to you, and when he comes to you, he will give you divine happiness, divine bliss. And you are eternally related to him. He's yours. He's been with you in every life, and he'll stay with you forever, whether you're in this world, and of course, once you attain him and you go to the divine world. So think of him lovingly. Think of him very close to you. And now we'll chant his name. His name is also one with him. God and his name are not separate. They're one and the same. So let's chant the name of Shri Krishna. And while we're chanting his name, we can close our eyes and visualize his personal presence right here in front of us. He's looking at you, he's smiling. He's looking at you with friendly, knowing eyes, like you are mine. He's looking at you with those eyes, like you belong to him. You're his. You know what that kind of look feels like? Now feel that Shri Krishna is looking at you in that way. So keep this meditation going while we do the chanting. Radhe Radhe Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe 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 Govinda Govinda Radhe लाडली लाल की, श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय। जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे, जय जय श्री राधे।